Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of Andrewsfootball.com. Welcome to my breakdown of the Tennessee Titans. Now, if you're new to my channel, see this little button right down here? See it, see it, see it? Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. My channel is scientifically proven to make all your wildest dreams come true. Now, here's how my breakdown videos go. I break down what I like. Then I break down what I don't like, but stick around to the end where I break down the Vegas over-under and if you should put action down on the Tennessee Titans. So let's just jump into what I like. As far as what I like about the Tennessee Titans, first thing is Derrick Henry. Now, I normally don't do this, but have you seen what this guy did in high school? This guy ran for almost 7 miles in high school, all right? I'm quoting you some numbers here because I can't believe this. 12,124 yards rushing in high school. All right, including 4,261 his senior year. He had 1,397 career carries. That's 8.7 yards per carry. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Had 153 touchdowns. Including 55 his senior year. That is just absolutely ridiculous numbers. And then, if you don't know this already, he won the Heisman Trophy at Alabama. And he is the only SEC running back. Now, the SEC, this goes back to 1956. He's the only SEC running back to rush for over 2,000 yards. He had 2,219 yards. Now disclaimer. Now, he did that in 15 games. Herschel Walker in 1981 had 1,891 yards. Those 11 games, so it's more yards per game. But bottom line, those last couple of games, those were not against easy opponents. I mean, he's not running against Vanderbilt. Nothing against Vanderbilt, but I mean, these weren't, weak teams that he's running against. These were to win a national championship. So keep in mind that the level of competition is greater. But bottom line, when you look at the running backs in the SEC, I already mentioned Herschel Walker. You have Bo Jackson. Emmitt Smith. It's kind of funny. Cam Newton's 21st on this list. Kind of cool. He did win a Heisman Trophy, but he plays quarterback. So, but you have some great running backs in the history of the SEC. Only one has over 2,000 yards, and that's Derrick Henry. And I can make this whole video. I can talk an hour long about how much I like Derrick Henry as a player, even though he broke my heart 2 years ago against my Chiefs at I think it was 147 yards rushing, over 100 in the second half to come back from a 21-3 deficit. But the thing is about Derrick Henry that I really love is he's listed at 6'3", 247. All right. More than likely, he's not really that big. He probably, honestly, if you see him, I think he looks bigger. But if this guy was a 6 foot, 210-pound running back, he would still be a really good running back because he has all the little things that most big backs don't have. He has bounce, he has vision, he has body control. I've mentioned several times I'm a longtime Chiefs season ticket holder. I was a Chiefs season ticket holder when Christian Okoye led the NFL in rushing. This is this guy who had very similar size speed combination, but Christian Okoye just ran straight into a hole, whether it was there or not. That's all he did. He didn't have the vision. He didn't have the body control. He didn't have all the things that a smaller running back would have. He was just big and strong, and he led the NFL in rushing. Derrick Henry has the potential to be an NFL MVP, and he's not a quarterback. At this day and age, that is extremely, extremely rare. As a matter of fact, I can argue this. I think him and Saquon Barkley have the most potential of greatness for 2019 as a running back. Saquon Barkley can do a little more in the receiving game, but as a pure runner, is there anybody else you'd really want to have than Derrick Henry? They started making him the primary running back late in the season, and he just exploded. He did have over 1,000 yards, but he didn't start all 16 games. I really think this year they're going to build the offense primarily around him. If you're a fantasy football owner, take note. This is a guy you should pick and should pick early. I think he'll have a big year. He's an MVP candidate. Second thing I like is Mike Vrabel. For those of you who don't know, Mike Vrabel, a former player, if you watch the Houston Texans Hard Knocks, which was a really good one, by the way, it was Mike Vrabel's first season as a position coach. I think they say it on the show But I could be mistaken. But I did hear this as soon as he became a position coach. As soon as he got into coaching, people are saying right away, "Oh, this is going to be a future head coach. This is a guy who's going to be a successful NFL head coach someday." And here's the thing. I mentioned earlier in 2017 how they beat my Chiefs in the playoffs after being down 21-3. Well, after coming back from a 21-3 halftime deficit, beating my Chiefs in the playoffs, they lose to New England and they get rid of their coaching staff and they hire Mike Vrabel. I thought it was a huge mistake at the time. I thought, man, that is dumb. You beat the Chiefs in the playoffs to lose. Let me get this straight. You lose to New England in the playoffs and you get fired. There's a lot more involved in that story. But bottom line, I didn't think that Mike Vrabel was a good hire. I thought that this is a guy who was going to win 4 or 5 games. Boy, he proved me wrong. All right, the defense in 2017 gave up the 17th points per game. Last year, they gave up 3rd. They were the 3rd best defense in the league as far as points per game given up, and they only had 1 Pro Bowl. That's Jarrell Casey. I think a lot of fans, now if you're in Tennessee, you know who Jarrell Casey is, but there's a lot of fans nationwide that don't know how good of a player this is. You have 1 Pro Bowler on that Tennessee Titans defense, and you gave up the 3rd most points. That's really good, and a lot of that is coaching. So Mike Vrabel is won me over. I think this is an excellent defensive mind, and I think he has a bright future as an NFL head coach. Third thing I like about Tennessee Titans is the offensive line. You signed Roger Saffold in free agency, which I thought was a great move. You have Taylor Lewan, who's a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. Now Conklin, who was injured the majority of last year, he comes back. He's a very solid right tackle. So you have a really good offensive line. So bottom line, how do you help out a young quarterback? Well, you have Derrick Henry, who's got all the potential in the world as a running back, and then you also improve an already good offensive line. So I really like how you're building this team. Running game, good defense, good offensive line. And the last thing I like about the Tennessee Titans that I'm going to talk about, and it's kind of funny because in a few minutes I'm going to talk about what I don't like. This is the first video, and maybe the last, where I talk about the draft in a good and bad way. But here's what I like about the draft. Jeffrey Simmons, universally, well, not universally. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I heard from multiple people that 5 years from now, Jeffrey Simmons could be the best player in the draft. Jeffrey Simmons is a guy who is definitely going in the first round despite tearing his ACL in February. This is a guy, if he was healthy, probably would have went top 10. So Tennessee was able to get a guy who several scouts have said this is going to be the best player in the draft 5 years from now. They get him at 19. This is a guy who's going to be a really, really good player if he's able to stay healthy. I mean, yes, you're rolling the dice, but I like the move. I mean, what did I say at the beginning of the show? I talked about, hey, I'm going to break down the Vegas over-under. I mean, I don't sit here and talk about Vegas and not enjoy gambling. I like a team that rolls the dice. I like the team that takes chances. This is a guy who could be the best defensive player in the draft. Now, keep in mind, Quinnen Williams was number 1 defensive tackle. Almost universally, everybody said the second best defensive tackle. Not an area of need, but it's an old draft philosophy, take the best player available. Well, this guy at 19 was arguably the best player available. So, I mean, and then another thing I liked about the draft is that you could have taken A.J. Brown at first pick at number 19, and it would have been a reach, but you needed offensive playmakers. Now, if you remember the draft, there was DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. Both were excellent receivers coming out of Ole Miss. For some teams, DK Metcalf would have been a better player to take. But for the Titans, the A.J. Brown is definitely the better player. A.J. Brown, a more polished receiver who's going to help you more day one. DK Metcalf, the higher ceiling. This guy, A.J. Brown, is the better player today, right now. He's going to be an immediate help. And getting him at 19 in the second round, you could have traded up in the second round. You could have taken him in the first round, and that would have been okay. But you waited till pick number 19 in the second round, and you get a guy who's going to help you out immediately. And you do need help with offensive playmakers. So I like that pick. So basically, just kind of recap here. You have Derrick Henry, a guy who could be MVP this year. Really, as far as running backs go, you got a guy who's got unlimited potential for this year. You have a good coach in Mike Vrabel, a guy who really won me over. This is a guy I think is an excellent defensive mind, and I think going to be an excellent defense coach. Keep in mind, only 1 year, but 9-7, or I thought it'd be a 4 or 5 win team. So I like Vrabel as a head coach. I like the offensive line, and I like what they did in the draft. Now I'm going to talk about what I don't like, and I didn't like what they did in the draft. I know I'm going both ways here. It's kind of crazy, but here's the thing about what I don't like in the draft is that, you got Jeffrey Simmons at 19 and the potential's off the charts. Great. You know who was chosen at 20 was Noah Fant. Your new offensive coordinator is a former tight ends coach. Your Pro Bowl tight end, or he went to the last 3 Pro Bowls before last year. He was injured. It was Delaney Walker. Now, Delaney Walker's coming back, but he's 97 years old. Okay, he's actually going to be 35 when the season starts. But Noah Fant was available, and he would have helped you this year. All right? Your tight end, who was your number 1 receiver, went to the Pro Bowl the previous 3 years, had a season-ending injury. He's coming back. He's 97 years old. Okay, he's 35. And Noah Fant would have been a perfect fit right here. He would have been a great value and an immediate help. So, bottom line, you could have used this guy. Can you imagine? Okay, you gave up the 3rd fewest points in the league. What would have been wrong taking Noah Fant at 1 and then A.J. Brown at 2? You immediately boost your offense, which needed help. All right? Which is the second thing I don't like. Your offensive playmakers, who are they? All right? Now, Corey Davis, he was chosen the 5th overall pick in 2017. A lot of people like his ceiling. I thought 5 was way too high for this guy. Last year, 65 receptions, 891 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's your number 1 receiver. And 65, 891, and 4 when you're the 5th overall pick in the draft doesn't cut it. I can actually make a case that A.J. Brown's your number 1 receiver going into this year, not Corey Davis. But in a perfect situation, Corey Davis gets better. But here's a guy who's the 5th overall pick in 2017, and so far his career, 99 receptions, 1,266 yards, 4 touchdowns. You're the 5th overall pick in the draft. That's not good enough. Now, keep in mind, if he jumps up again, because, he basically doubled his output. Now, keep in mind, if he doubles his output again, of course, that would be, 130 catches for 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns. Still isn't great. But, then if he turns into a legitimate number 1 receiver, I'll eat my words. But bottom line, you did sign Adam Humphries in free agency, but this is a team that finished 27th in points per game, and you got a good running back. If I'm playing against Tennessee Titans, I have no fear of these wide receivers, all right? I'm putting 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in the box. I'm not scared about being beaten deep, and I'm not scared of these wide receivers at all. So next thing I don't like, and I'm going to talk about, is the quarterback situation. Now, I'm not talking specifically Marcus Mariota. I'm talking about the quarterback situation as a whole, all right? You lose your offensive coordinator. Keep in mind, you're 27th in points per game, and 27th ranked out of the league. There's only 32 teams, so that's not good. So you bring in a new offensive coordinator who was your former tight ends coach. So you bring in a guy who's never been an offensive coordinator before, who's not a guy who works with quarterbacks, all right? I just did a video on the Minnesota Vikings. They brought in Gary Kubiak, a guy who won a Super Bowl as a head coach, to be an offensive assistant, not even coordinator. Of course, if you watch my video, he basically is going to be a coordinator. But bottom line, you went with somebody who doesn't have experience working with quarterbacks, and then you also bring in a guy who's got no previous experience about being an offensive coordinator. Now, keep in mind, you tell me, if you live in Tennessee or you're a Tennessee Titans fan, because I knew Mike Vrabel, people were talking about him day one, he got into coaching, hey, he's going to be an NFL head coach. I haven't heard that about Arthur Smith. So you tell me, is Arthur Smith just this brilliant mind that I don't know about? There's a possibility this guy's a genius and the rest of the league doesn't know, but people inside Tennessee Titans organization know that, hey, this is a genius. This is a guy who's going to be an awesome offensive coordinator. I haven't heard that. And bottom line, you could have gone with somebody with a little more experience because you're struggling in your quarterback position. I can argue that Marcus Mariota is the worst quarterback in this division. And if you're a Titans fan or you're a Mariota fan, you're going to say, no, he's better than Foles. Well, Foles won a Super Bowl. And let me read some stats here. All right. In 13 starts last year, Marcus Mariota threw for 11 touchdowns. That's not good. I mean, I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm spoiled. I got Patrick Mahomes threw for 50. So, I mean, you got 11. That's not good. He had 8 interceptions. Now, I'm using Pro Football Reference to get some stats here. And he had 8 interceptions and 9 fumbles. It didn't say how many he lost, but 9 fumbles and 8 interceptions is not good, especially when you only have 11 touchdowns. He had 2,528 yards passing. That's 180.6 yards passing a game. That is not good. Now, I will say that I did like the Tannehill trade. I had to read over this a few times because it's a 2024th and 7th, and they get Tannehill okay. Here's the deal. The Titans don't have a 7th round pick. They have a 6th round pick, but it's Tannehill in the 6th, so they did some finagling there. But bottom line, when you're flipping 7th and 6th, that's not really the thing. It's a 2024th, which hopefully will help the Tennessee Titans out. So, bottom line, Tannehill, the thing I like about the Tannehill signing is that Marcus Mariota, despite the fact that he does need some help, and despite the fact that he's not been producing the way that the 2nd overall pick in the draft should produce, he's a plus athlete. So if he does get injured, and he has had some injury issues, you don't have to change too much about your offense because Ryan Tannehill, who played wide receiver at Texas A&M before becoming a starting quarterback, is a plus athlete. Also, is he the athlete Mariota is? No, he's not, but he's a really good athlete, especially at the quarterback position. So if you're going to use Marcus Mariota's athleticism and he does get injured, you put in Tannehill and he can do a lot of the same things. So I do like the Tannehill, but bottom line, you're going into this season with a quarterback who's struggled, and then you got a new offensive coordinator who's never been an offensive coordinator before, who works great with tight ends, and the tight end position's been a real positive for the Tennessee Titans, but you telling me you really couldn't bring in an offensive coordinator who's worked with quarterbacks before, who can help quarterbacks? Because that's really what you need. All right, so just kind of to recap what I don't like, your first pick in the draft is not going to help you at all this year because he's not going to play. You could have taken Noah Fant, who would have been an immediate upgrade for something that really struggles in your offense. So keep in mind, if Simmons has a better career than Noah Fant, then, hey, I'll eat my words. But bottom line, if Noah Fant's a Pro Bowl tight end, and you could have had him, and you didn't want to take him. Number 2, offensive playmakers, okay? You really needed a lot more. I thought you needed to do more than Adam Humphries in free agency, especially since you didn't want to take Fant in the first round. I do like the 2nd round pick in A.J. Brown, though. But bottom line, I thought you needed to do a lot more specifically to compete in this division. You got 2 teams that went to the playoffs, and you got Jacksonville. It's much improved. So, and then the quarterback situation, you got a new offensive coordinator who worked with tight ends. He's now your first-time offensive coordinator, and you have a quarterback who's talented but has struggled. Your offense was 27th last year in points per game. So I can argue that you really didn't even upgrade in the offensive coordinator position. So that's kind of a struggle. So what I say wait till the end of the video. I'm going to break down the over-under, and if you should put action down on Tennessee Titans, the over-under is 8. The over, if you want to bet for the Titans to win over 8's plus 110, which means that if you wager $100, you win $110. But if you wager under 8, it's negative 130, which means you have to wager 130 to win 100. Now, because of the vast difference between these two, the issue is that this could actually drop to 7.5, but it's been steady at 8. I think it'll stay at 8. If it drops to 7.5, then it's a little more advantageous for you to take the over. But here's the thing, when I break down the Titans, I'm looking at the schedule. Last year they were 6-2 at home. But besides the Texans and the Colts, you have home games against the Chiefs, Chargers, and Saints. That's 5 games against playoff teams. So it's highly unlikely you're going to go 6-2 this year. But you do have some winnable road games. Week 1 against Cleveland is big because I think that the winner of that game is going to have a leg up on the wild card race. Pay very close attention to that game. Cleveland and Tennessee, it's at Cleveland, week 1. The winner of that game is going to be really, really key because that could be a difference in the wild card week 1. But you have week 1 road game against Cleveland. You also have road games against Denver and Oakland. And bottom line, when you run the ball and you play good defense, that's a good recipe to win on the road. They were 3-4 on the road last year. They have a loss at a neutral location against the Chargers, so I'm going to say they're 3-5, but I just want to make sure I clarify that information. But bottom line, you do have some winnable road games. So my suggestion would be I would avoid betting the Titans completely, but I think that on paper they're actually better than the 9-7 team last year. So if I was going to bet the Titans, I would definitely recommend taking the over plus. It's plus 110, so a $100 investment will actually win you 110. Bottom line, a good defense, a good offensive line, and a good running game will win you. Will put you over 500 any year. So listen, hey, if you're a subscriber to Andrews Football, you already know that you're one of the greatest people on planet Earth. All your wildest dreams are going to come true. But if you're new to my channel, there's this button right down here. See it, see it, see it. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. I got some playlists here, some really awesome content. Check this stuff out. Hey, I'm breaking down Pittsburgh on Wednesday. It's going to be a great video. So, hey, I'll see you Wednesday.